Welcome to the Pre to Post Transplant Podcast, a podcast that brings personal stories from transplant survivors, their families, friends, and loved ones. This is where you will hear challenges and triumphs of everyone involved in this journey. Our guests will offer wisdom, advice, and inspiration on everything you want to know about transplant. My name is Jenny McFarland. I am a transplant survivor, and this is a podcast I wish I had before and immediately following my transplant. Thank you for listening. Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast. This is Jenny McFarland, your host, and if you are returning from my last episode, welcome back to part 2 of Randy and Becky's transplant journey. Before we talk about that, let me just remind all of you about the Pre to Post Transplant Foundation. If you are part of the organ donation community, such as a recipient, caregiver, living donor, donor family member, I just want to remind you guys about our buddy program. We have a buddy program that lets you connect with somebody who's been through the same thing that you've been through. And also, if you are somebody who's already been through all that, I encourage you to log on to our website at www.pretopost.org and sign up to either become a buddy or request a buddy. It's a great program. That program's been growing, and we've been matching people up. And Randy and Becky talk about, towards the end of their story here today, they talk a lot about, connecting with somebody and having somebody by your side, essentially. So I just wanted to remind all of you about that program. So log on to the foundation's website, and you can apply right on the website. We have a lot of people who are post-transplant who have signed up. So if you are a post-transplant person and you don't get matched up right away, just give it a little bit of time. We'll get you matched up. If you are pre-transplant, you're going to get matched up right away because we have a lot of people waiting to be connected with you. So I just want to encourage you all to get on there and sign up and, start a relationship with somebody that you can help or that can help you. Okay, so this episode is a continuation from my last episode. Randy and Becky Coker come on to talk about Randy's transplant journey, and his wife Becky is on there to talk about being a caregiver. And if you listen to that episode, you'll know that that was part 1. And so part 2, this episode, is going to talk about Randy meeting his donor family. So it was a great experience, and it's a great story. So you guys are going to love this episode. So let's not waste any time. Let's continue on where we left off from part 1 with Randy and Becky Coker. So Randy, I want to talk to you. I want you to tell me the story of, if you have time, the story about meeting your donor, because I love this story, and I want you to tell me about it, like from the beginning, where with your brother and everything. So
yeah,
and then we'll finish that off with the smiling Rylan.
I was when you have your organ or transplant, you're always curious. Most people are, I think, about who was your donor. And I had for about a year, they tell you to wait about a year, and you write a letter. And luckily for me, I wrote the letter about a year after transplant, and my donor's sister, she wrote me back. And when I received the letter, I'd gone through some things. I lost my father 21 days before I got the transplant. And my brother, I only had one sibling, and he was my younger brother. He was 18 months younger than me. And he was there when I had that transplant. When I woke up from the surgery, my brother was there. So he and I were very close. I always speak to each other almost daily. And we live, over 100 miles apart. But anyway, his name was Jackie. And so when I received the letter, my brother had had some issues just before that. And the day that right before my father passed away, my brother he was a deer hunter, and he and some friends were installing a deer stand, and that deer stand, it was a tower type stand, and the wind blew it over and it landed on my brother. So they got him, picked him up and everything, got him. He felt like he was all right, but his back was sore. So this was in 2018, and his felt like his back was kind of damaged. And I take it back. This was in 2016.
That was 2016.
It's 2016, and this was right before my dad passed away. And
my
dad called me. It's the last time I ever talked to my father. He called me and he said, "Look, your brother got himself hurt, and I want you to help me talk him into going to the hospital." He said, "You know how he is, he won't go." And I said, "Okay." And last thing I ever said to my dad was, "I love you." And so that was on a Saturday. My dad passed away on Monday. Mm-hmm. And when my brother called me, my brother found him, and he called me and he said, "Look, Dad passed away." And so I got up there, but I had remembered, I said, "Hey, Jackie, you got to go to the doctor." And he said, "You just like Daddy." And I said, and his wife, Ruby, she's the same way. She said, "I've been trying to get him to go." And I said, and we were planning Daddy's funeral. And I finally said, "Well, just go, and we're going to have the funeral later in the week. Just go to Dallas." And he went, and they did a x-ray on him, and to find out if he had broken anything in his back. And he did not. Luckily, he did not break anything. However, the doctor told him, he said, "There's an issue." He said that we see something on your kidney we need to check. And so one of your kidneys. And anyway, they did. And this after my dad's funeral, he went back for another checkup, and they did check on him and see what was going on, did a CT scan and whatnot. And they found a spot on his kidney that was cancer. And the doctors, of course, it scared him and everybody else to death. And the doctor told him, he said, "We can handle this with a chemo pill." And he said, I'm pretty sure it will, you got another 15 years, before this thing bothers you anymore. Well, unfortunately, the doctor was wrong, and it moved to his lungs. And so in July of 2018, he passed away from that cancer in his lungs. And so after that, I received a letter from my donor's sister. And just so happened, when I opened it up, started reading, I couldn't even make it all the way through it, because the name, what got me was the name of my donor. His name was Angel. And then as I looked down the letter, her name was Jackie. So I felt like, this is my brother talking to me.
Yeah.
And he knows Angel. And so it just kind of, for a while, really bothered me. And but I finally wrote another letter, and but I didn't hear back. And so I don't know, here couple of years ago, or we decided to on our Zoom meetings with during Life Gift and the with Christina and all of our group, we had an opportunity to speak to some of the people at Life Gift that handle the letter exchanges and keeps up. They have all the files for the donors and the patients. And just so happened we were all in the group were asking for this information. How do we, can we find out who our donor is? And I was, I guess, out of the group, the luckiest one that was able to find out about my donor. And they told me that they would send me the paperwork. I could sign it, send it back to them, and they would, if I was felt okay about meeting them, then they would send a letter to the donor's family and see if they were up to it. And luckily they did sign, and that was it until this past fall in 2021. I got a phone call just in the middle of the day, and the first thing she says, "Is this Randy?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "This is Jackie." And so it was that way again, and so we talked, and she told me a little bit about my donor. He was 26 years old, and he had died in an automobile accident there in Houston. And she had basically raised him. She was the oldest child in the family, and she raised him, and he also had a young son. So we talked a little bit and talked about how we'd like to get together sometime and meet, but we didn't set any firm dates. We just said, maybe we'll meet. They lived in Katy, and I lived in College Station. They thought, well, we'll meet over at Round Top or something on a weekend sometime and have dinner. And well, throughout the next few months, she and I would speak to each other either on the phone or text each other. We did a lot of texting. And so recently, when they had the Smiling Ryland Foundation event, I contacted Jackie and I said, look, we're going to have this event that I'm going to be part of. I'm going to be walking in the 5K in this. And we also have our Pre to Post Foundation that's going to be there. So would it be possible for you to come by? And she sent me a message back and said, I'd love to be there. And so so the day of the event, I was there with Becky, and you were there, Jenny, and and this lady walked up and said, "Is Randy Coker here?" And I said, "Are you Jackie?" And she said, "Yes." And so that's when we met each other. So we hugged each other and promised, and talked for a while. I got us several pictures and just enjoyed the visit.
I was going to ask if that was him. Yeah, I was going to ask you if that was him.
Picture, yeah, and that his name was Angel. And anyway, we met that day with her. Yeah,
yeah.
Met with Jackie and her husband Vincent. Or Vicente or Vincent.
Yeah.
But they were local there in Katy, and we're going to meet again as soon as possible. I think she discussed with Becky about. I know she mentioned about they have a family reunion. There was 9 kids, and Jackie was the oldest, and Angel was the youngest. So they have a remembrance reunion each year for the family to remember Angel, and they asked if I would be willing to come to that. So I agreed I would, and so hopefully
then you'll get to meet all of them. Oh, what an amazing day that's going to be! Oh, can I come? Yeah. No. So you guys had that meeting at the Smiling Ryland Run, and as you mentioned, I was there, and
yeah,
I tried my hardest to stay out of that because that was your moment. But I got to tell you, Randy, I was like so happy for you and so
Yeah.
emotional for you. And I just wanted to get in there. I just wanted to hug her and
Yeah.
tell her thank you. And
Mhm.
so I felt like, I haven't met my family yet. So I kind of felt like, I was missing out on something and I just wanted to be a part of it. So
I do remember introducing you to Jackie and say, Jenny has not met her transplant her donor family, but we do know that they speak Spanish.
Yeah.
And I remember Jackie said, "Well, I speak Spanish too, so
Yeah.
I could talk to them for you." So
okay. We'll talk about it at the reunion.
yeah.
Just kidding.
So, but anyway, it's been one thing I have to say is I have two children, a girl and a boy, Eric and Emily, but I have 9 grandchildren, 6 boys, 3 girls, and I also have a great grandson. 3 of those, 2 of the grandkids, grandchildren, and the great grandson were all born after I had my transplant. So without the transplant, I probably would have never met those 3. And so it's been a great experience. And Becky and I feel like the transplant took 20 years off of me. I feel like, I can do things that I didn't think I would ever do again. And there's a lot of things I'd like continue to do or to do that I used to do. One of those is kayaking. I used to love to kayak fish with my son. We did fishing tournaments along the coast and whatnot. So I'd love to do it again, but at the same time, I'm kind of worried about it.
We'll go. I love to kayak. Eileen likes to kayak. We'll go kayak. I mean, I don't know about the fishing thing, but we can do it too. We can do fish.
Yeah, that's true.
He's got a Hobie.
Yeah.
He's got one of those Hobies, which you can do with your feet.
What that is.
It's type
like
of kayak
one,
that has pedals in it that you pedal.
Like a paddle boat.
Yeah. So the place I go to, they rent those too. So shoot, we'll go. Becky, you can go.
Well, actually, I own 2 kayaks. So, but
I'm not fond of alligators.
Yeah, Becky doesn't. She doesn't really care for it. But
do they have alligators? And so I go to the Woodlands.
Oh yeah,
they have alligators everywhere.
There's alligators there. Oh shoot!
Everywhere in Texas, yes, or in this part of Texas.
So if you're out, you're out kayaking, there could be an alligator.
Yeah, I've been around them when I was kayaking, but they don't. You don't bother them; they don't bother you.
Oh shoot!
Sorry,
Randy, I take that back. Forget it. I'm not going. I'm gonna go back to New Mexico where there's no alligators.
I can tell you an area right too far from you there that's really got a lot of them. That's Brazos Bend State Park. It's full of them. Yeah,
okay, well,
not there not far out of Katy.
I didn't know they were like in saltwater, but when we were down at Rockport, there were alligators in that bay we were on. Mm-hmm. And Randy was out there kayaking with my grandkids. And I think we told Cannon and he quit doing it.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we did have one alligator right there by our house. Yeah, beach house there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they're there. But you don't
just got to be aware.
Yeah, you just watch for them.
And then what do you do when you see one? You just turn around and go
alone. You go back in the house.
Forget it. I'm not.
Okay. Get your binoculars.
Anyway, we got off track. Okay, so I want to ask Becky how. Okay, so I want to ask you how you felt during the whole donor family meeting. How did that affect you at all?
Well, it was really neat because I thought they were really wonderful people. And I really felt a connection with Jackie, his sister. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, it was like, it's like a bridge between the two families because he's Randy, but he's also part Angel.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's just like kind of like their family or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really great story.
Yeah.
With the whole Angel and your brother and
Yeah.
so
it was bizarre.
Yeah.
I mean, when we got that letter, it was like, you know, you could feel things crawling up your back or something.
Yeah.
It was so.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll be honest with you, Jenny, he kind of has Jackie face to my brothers. You know, my brother he was a wonderful person. He the thing about me is the family I come from. There was my grandparents. They had 4 children. They had two boys and 2 girls. Okay, the oldest son, he had 2 daughters. The 2 girls, of course, they married. One of them had 2 sons and a daughter, and one of them had 2 sons, but their names were not Coker anymore, or not. The kids were not named Coker. But my brother and I were the only 2. My dad, we could carry on my dad's name or my grandfather's name, and my brother has 4 girls, so he could not do that, and so I have 6 grandsons, or well, I've got 3 of them that are Coker. I've got 3 Coker grandsons and a Coker great grandson. So the name is continuing to go.
Yeah.
You know, Becky and I kept this lung transplant secret for a long time. We didn't tell anybody what was going on, and then finally, just before I was called up, I contacted my dad and my brother and had them meet us at a little town. I told them, look, we'll meet you guys in Mahia and we'll buy your dinner. Got something to talk to you about. And that's when I told them that I was going to have the transplant. I still don't know how my father felt about it, but my brother, he like I say, he was right there with me all the time.
Yeah.
He was part of it. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway.
Well, I've got one more question for each of you, and then I'm going to let you guys go. So for Randy, my question to you is, what piece of advice would you give to somebody that you wish you had before your transplant? And Becky, it's the same thing. What piece of advice would you give to a caregiver who is pre-transplant that you wish that you had before Randy had gone through his transplant? Let's start with Randy.
Okay, I think my main piece of advice would be to find 1 or 2 people that have gone through it and kind of buddy up with them, talk to them, ask questions, especially ask all the questions you want. I think that my pre-transplant coordinator was good. She did explain a lot of things to me, but I couldn't take those things and explain them to the family, come home and tell my daughter and my son a lot of those things. So I think it's better coming from get all the information you can from these doctors and coordinators, but find somebody that's been through the experience and, weigh their, what they say to help you make your decision, because you're going to hear, and go to more than one person if you can, because you're going to hear different things.
Yeah.
And some things are excellent and some things don't work out as well. Every person's different. Yeah. But I think I would try my best to talk to people that's been involved.
Yeah, I think that's good advice, because before my transplant, I didn't have any transplant friends. I didn't know anybody until after. So it would have been nice to have some people before, even though I had the Facebook support groups and all. It's not really the same thing. So that's good advice. Okay, what about you, Becky?
Well, I think the best thing to do before you have the transplant, I can't say that there was anything that I wish I'd had that I didn't have. I think one of the things is we were lucky we chose the hospital we did. Probably in retrospect, I would think, talk to people that have had transplants from different places and see which one was the good experience and what they provided for them. Because we lucked out because we were provided the training, the information, the access to, doctors and psychiatrists and all kind of things to prepare us for the journey we were going to be on. And I would also say, don't get your information from Facebook. Do some research on your own, maybe in a real book that you read, or, look at some of these groups like the Pre to Post, where you can actually access people that have been through this journey, and multiple hospitals. They've been to different hospitals. I think that, and, going and familiarizing yourself not only with the physical hospital and the way you're going to have to go when you go down there for the transplant, but also get all that information you need before the transplant so that afterwards you're not panicking, like where you're going to stay, who your caregivers are, and all that kind of stuff. You just have to prepare yourself with information to make it a good journey, and that will help you not panic and get through it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate you guys coming on, and I wish you guys both the best, even though I'll be talking to you guys again.
Okay.
Okay, you guys.
All
have
right,
a great
Jenny.
day.
Good
you
to
too,
see
Jenny.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Pre to Post Transplant Podcast. Please be sure to subscribe to the podcast and follow us on Facebook. Oh, and if you have not signed up to be an organ donor, please visit www.organdonor.gov and register today. You too can save lives.